1978, I came to Europe to compete for the first time. It was pure driving. It was real racing. And that makes me happy.
Oh my goodness, this is fantastic!
I think we are watching the arrival of Ayrton Senna, a truly staggering talent.
Hello, just me again. Something a bit different today. Kyle would have wanted to be here for this when I told him what I was going to be filming about. And yesterday, it was 20 years to the day that Ayrton Senna died at Imola. Now, I felt it was appropriate to just make a short video, basically, of me just telling you how great this man was. In case you didn't know who he was a Brazilian Formula 1 racer, and he started his career in 1984, and he died in 1994. I just turned 3 years old, and just a bit of backstory. I was never a Formula 1 fan as a kid. I was always more into the sound they make, which unfortunately isn't in Formula 1 anymore. And I sort of picked up a few names along the way, like Michael Schumacher, David Coulthard, you know, but never really been a fan of it. I took notice of Formula 1 when Lewis Hamilton won the World Championship. And I only heard of Ayrton Senna when Top Gear did a segment of, basically, he would have been 50 years old, and they did a short film about his career. And they got onto the subject of a documentary that had been made about him that was being released in cinemas. This one. And I didn't see it in cinemas because it must have just been out for a few weeks or so. It wasn't out for very long. But I bought it on DVD, and it is just incredible. It is just the best documentary I've ever seen. And for me, I've never really been a fan of documentary films, because for me a documentary is something you watch on the telly. You know, you don't go to a cinema to watch a documentary, but this one is amazing. I mean, it is all archive footage, and you have interviews over the top from people who knew the man, people who raced with him. Basically, the film documents his beginnings from being a go-kart driver, which is briefly touched on, to moving on to Formula 1. But it mainly focuses on Senna's rivalry with his teammate, Alain Prost. And if you've seen, or if you saw, Rush last year, this was an intense rivalry, but I think it's fair to say Senna-Prost was just on a different level. I mean, just the way it's portrayed in Rush doesn't apply to Senna and Prost. There was real friction between the two, and that's putting it a bit lightly. And basically, the film ends with Senna's untimely demise at the Italian Grand Prix in Imola. And I mean, Kyle, he's not a Formula 1 fan at all at the moment. I mean, I sort of turned in the last few years, but he loves this film, and that's about as good as a tribute as I can give it. Is that, I mean, Rush, people who don't like Formula 1 will like Rush, but for Senna, for it to be a documentary and do the same job, it is just staggering. And one thing I can honestly say from watching this film is that Ayrton Senna was the best driver ever, in my opinion. I mean, it's hard to say now, because Sebastian Vettel, he's won the World Championship 4 times, Senna won it 3 times, but you can't really compare any of these drivers. Like Niki Lauda, Senna, Vettel, they all drove different cars, so you can't really give an estimation on who would be the best driver if they all drove the same car. But yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge Ayrton Senna's 20th year since his death. And what I find saddest is that before he died, it was at a time when Formula One deaths were quite common. You know, it was a really dangerous sport. And then since Senna's death, not a single driver has died. And it's a strange one, because he was so well loved, and for him to die so unexpectedly, it then leads to, you know, more safety in the sport, and, you know, it's like a sort of sacrifice. And one thing I do want to point out is Roland Ratzenberger. He died the day before Senna died in qualifying, but since Senna died as well, he's the only one who ever gets any coverage on this sort of thing. So I just wanted to pay my respects to Ratzenberger as well, because yeah, his death is covered in the film as well. Apart from that, all I can say is Senna is one of the few people I wish I could have witnessed doing what he was doing, the other being John Lennon. But that's the way it goes. And these are the two best sports films ever. I mean, sports films are hard. It's probably one of the hardest genres to pull off. And Ron Howard pulled it off, and the guys who made this pulled it off. I mean, to make a documentary as well about it, brilliant. So next time it will be more positive, but just for today I wanted to just acknowledge Ayrton Senna, because I have nothing but admiration for him. So, thank you.
It was the last time either of them would be on a podium.
Ayrton ran out of luck.
There is a lot to go, a lot to learn, a lot to do. But I have plenty of time. Pure driving, real racing. That makes me happy.